Good morning, Anne.
Good morning, James.
And good morning, everybody. Thank you for tuning in again. It's Sunday morning. We hope that you are having a wonderful weekend. And here we are again. So for the next half an hour or so, Anne and myself are sat around a table with a microphone between us, and we are going to have a conversation and take it from there. We don't have a particular plan or any script or anything like that. We will just see where it goes. So shall we set sail, Anne?
Yes.
Happy
definitely.
to do so?
Yes.
Brilliant. Okay, well,
Well,
off we go.
I think to follow on from last week,
Yes.
really, is when we were talking about the dogs.
Yes.
Which is something that touches everybody's heart, I think, when you watch it, the programme.
Yes, we were talking about, well, I brought it up and you and I were discussing
Yes.
it. We've spoken a lot about it, haven't we, over the
Yes.
last few weeks ourselves. The Dog House,
Yes.
Channel 4 on a Sunday evening, 9 p.m, or you can get it on Catch Up. And it really is a wonderful programme. Do you want to share a little bit about what we've been discussing and how you feel about it?
Well, I think just before we discuss this, I think I'd like to just speak a little bit about my understanding of dogs.
Okay.
I've always had a dog and a cat growing up.
Yes.
Because my parents had a pub, and they had a dog as a guard dog and a cat to catch the mice.
Right. Okay.
In the beer cellar.
Yes.
So.
The pet avengers.
Yes.
Yes.
The dogs were never guard dogs, by the way. They never got that far. But just to give you an insight on different families.
Yes.
If you said to me, what is your favourite dog as a child? What is your favourite dog?
Yes.
I would say Rob.
Rob. Okay.
And what is your favourite cat? And I would say Blanco. So naturally then you'd say, why were they your favourite?
Yes.
And I'd say because every dog was called Rob and every cat was called Blanco.
Every dog had the same name?
Every single dog had the same name. Every cat had the same name.
Well, it keeps it simple. It means you can reuse the dog collar.
They didn't wear dog collars.
Didn't wear dog collars?
No dog collars at all in
my
day.
Okay.
They didn't have leads.
Wow.
Dogs were just opened the door and dogs went out.
So quite feral?
No. They would come back to the house. They'd go play with the kids, then they'd come back into the house.
Yes.
And I had a friend whose dog actually knocked on the knocker when it wanted to go in.
What, with his paw?
With its paw, yeah.
Oh, wow. Did you have the same breed of dog? Or were they all different shapes and sizes? Rob and Blanco was a cat. Were they all different shapes and sizes or the same breed?
Absolute mongrels.
So different, you could have a different shape and size dog each time?
Each time, yeah. Always.
Wow. And did they all have their own personality?
Every dog has its own personality. And every animal, I think something that taught me, when I was 11, I had tonsillitis very badly. And my mother in those days, used to push you out to school if you were ill. She'd say, go to school, they'll send you home if you're not well. So for me to be lay on a settee, I was quite poorly.
Yes.
So the night before, the cat that we had been killed because we were on main road, so sometimes cats got killed.
Yes.
Which, at a very young age, you learnt to deal with the death of animals.
Okay.
And the cat the night before had been killed, and she decided she would go out and buy another kitten.
Yes.
Now, the dog we had always been with cats. But she bought a kitten, and I was laying on the settee, and she brought the kitten in, put the kitten on my knee on the bed, and then went out into the pub to serve in the pub. And the dog killed the cat in front of me.
The kitten? The little kitten?
The kitten, yeah.
Wow.
So that taught me that just because you have something in your life and it's very, very friendly, it doesn't mean to say when something else comes into its life that it feels the same about it.
So its relationship with the cat that got killed on the road was different to how it felt about the kitten?
Absolutely.
Which might have been, who knows what it meant to the dog.
And maybe like adults,
yes,
it didn't have the chance to grieve for the cat that had gone.
It felt like it was being, the previous cat was being replaced, maybe.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
found-
And they are animals, obviously. And it's an obvious
Yes.
thing to say, isn't it?
Mm.
But they don't have the same ethical codes that we have. So you retell that as a story, and it seems probably to most pet owners, particularly cat owners, that would be an injustice. But within the realms of the animals, we don't know necessarily whether it is an injustice or whether they have the same concept, or even if they have a concept of justice.
Well, would it be any different than somebody who has lost a child and somebody suddenly brings another child in and thinks that child could replace a child? And it won't, will it?
No.
So maybe...
The response may be different, though.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully would be different, but maybe the feelings wouldn't be.
Well, the response, it wouldn't... And the dog would only know how to...
Respond within its own nature. Yeah. Yes.
As we respond within our own nature. But we found that on when we were watching the programme, didn't we?
Yes.
When they brought dogs together.
Yes.
Because some people wanted a friend for their dog.
Yes. So if you haven't seen it, first of all, we are completely biased. I'm certainly biased. I think it's a wonderful programme, and it really is worth a watch. So if you haven't watched it, watch it. And if you can get it on catch up, watch all the previous episodes. And in the introduction to the programme, there's a voiceover talking about what the programme's about, and there's a line that's said by somebody who works at the shelter, wherever it is in the UK, and she says, this employee, never underestimate the power of a dog. And I would say that's completely and utterly true. It's never underestimate the power of a dog to transform anybody's life.
That's very
And
true.
it is true. So the majority of the people that are coming to the rescue centre are looking to be paired up with a dog. And the television programme is centred around the employees and their database and their knowledge of the dogs at the rescue centre, pairing them up with the person, couple, family who are looking for a dog. It's a bit like first dates in a way. Or blind date with Cilla Black.
Yes.
Yeah.
And maybe even taking that a step further.
Yes.
Maybe we don't do that enough in our schools either.
No. Well, to finish the point, because otherwise we're leaving it open, I've just realised you mentioned the vast majority of people are looking for a dog for themselves, but there are some people and some of the programme where there are people, couples, families who have a dog already, but they also had another dog.
Yes.
And that dog has passed, and they're looking for a companion friend for the grieving dog that's left within their family. And therefore, two dogs get to be introduced towards each other, not just a family and a dog. There is the family's current dog and then a potential new dog from the rescue centre. And the nature of the dogs as they interact with each other. And you're right, the personalities that come out, because it isn't always immediate or even guaranteed that the dogs will take to each other. And there is the dance that takes place between the dogs, sometimes literally a dance, but also the dynamics of everything that goes into the friendship, the courtship, the getting to know each other, the boundary setting, the whole hierarchy of everything that goes into that possible happening of a new dog coming into a household. So it's fascinating to see the personalities of each dogs. And obviously within the breeds of the dogs, there are types of personality, but the individual dogs themselves, as the people who work at the rescue centre say, that they have their own personality. And that's so wonderful. It really is, and interesting. And I'm sure at times frustrating and everything else that goes with life. But yeah, it really is a heartwarmer. Sorry, what were you saying about schools then, Anne?
Well, just before that,
yes.
Just to say, as an example of this, is that when my husband died, I got a dog.
Okay.
Not to replace him, but as a companion.
You're just making sure that's said.
I'm making sure that everybody
You've already told the tale
that.
about how, bringing the cat back in. Yeah.
So I bought, and it was an Airedale called Spencer, and I had Spencer for 6 years. And going out one day, outside on the step, I walked out and I thought there was a cat curled up on this step. And Spencer didn't like cats.
This is outside of your home?
My home, yeah.
Okay.
So I went back in thinking the cat will go. Anyway, I went out again and the cat hadn't gone.
Okay.
And realised it was a tiny dog. Tiny dog.
Yes.
So I still didn't know what to do. In the end, I got 2 leads and took the dog for a walk, got in touch with the dog warden, to see what I should do about it.
Okay.
And long story short, the dog that we had was called Henry. So Henry came to live with us, with Spencer and myself.
So the dog that looked like a cat,
Yeah.
was Henry.
It was like a little Jack Russell, looked like a little
Did
Jack
you call
Russell.
him Henry?
I called him Henry, yes.
Yeah.
Which was a special name.
So your
to
current
me.
dog at the time was an Airedale called Spencer.
Yeah, and used to take them for walks and do things together.
Yeah.
After a few months, Spencer attacked Henry
Okay.
very badly, very
Yeah.
badly. He attacked him in the kitchen. There was blood everywhere, and I had to make a decision.
Yes.
Which dog did I keep? Now, most people would say I would have kept Spencer because I had him 6 years.
Yes.
But because he tasted blood, I couldn't do that because I had small grandchildren and great-grandchildren.
Okay.
So I couldn't trust him.
Yes.
He went to a very good home on a farm. I didn't
Yes.
just get rid of the dog, by the way. But I had Henry. So Henry, who was one very, very special dog. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because James can explain to you more than I can, is what a dog does to your heart, because you'd never had an animal, had you?
No. So thank you for sharing that, Anne. I have spoken to you about that story before.
Yes.
You've told me about that story before. And I've had the absolute privilege to be able to get to know Henry and spend a lot of time with Henry. And you're right, in a sense, fall in love with Henry. He when I say he was my best friend, he is my best friend, although Henry's now passed. He really was my best friend. And I know that is a bit of a cliche, but I genuinely mean it. I genuinely mean it. No, I'd never lived with a dog before. I'd been around dogs at times in terms of family friends, and some previous girlfriends had dogs when I was seeing them. So I had spent some time with dogs, and I've always felt an affinity with dogs. And I know a number of you, many of you, potentially all of you listening, will have a deep understanding, and certainly a level of understanding of what we're talking about. But Henry was very special. Like every dog, we're all biased, aren't we? Particularly when we're close to dogs, when we say...
No, every dog's not special.
I know.
But some dogs are more special than others. They're all special, but some are more special than others.
Yes, and I know that. What I'm trying to say is that I'm sure that there are lots of people listening who have dogs that are very special in their lives.
Yes.
And that is very true for them. I absolutely know it without any doubt at all. But Henry was so special in my life and continues to be special in my life. And I've had the privilege to be able to see how special he is in other people's lives as well. And to pretty much everybody that he ever met, he brought a smile to their face. And it's difficult to describe what that love is like. I'll do my best without hopefully going on too long, but I've never known such unconditional love from the perspective of absolute focus. So from the dog's perspective, it's like they bond with you, and their life's purpose is an awareness of you, and they are prepared and happy to live for you, with you, and there's no sacrifice involved in that's negative. It's a complete act of love and devotion. I know it isn't that case with every dog and every person across the world. I do know that, but in a lot of cases it is. It teaches you what it feels like to be loved, and that I don't know if there is a better lesson, a more profound lesson, what it is to be loved, and how powerful love is without words. Because we talk a lot. I certainly talk a lot, certainly when I get going, hence here we go again. And Henry never uttered a word as far as we would define verbal communication, but he said so much, but he never uttered a word as far as we would understand it. So he taught me the power of presence, the power of touch. No matter where you were sat or lay down, and if he wanted to come and be with you, and I was fortunate that he did that, he would always make sure he was touching you, and it gave him great comfort as well. So whether it was a paw or a leg, or he brushed his back up against you, he always wanted the connection, he always wanted to feel you. And that taught me so much about the power of touch, and how simply touching says everything, often says more than we could ever say with words.
We had lots of laughter also.
Yes, I'm making it a bit of not a tearjerker, but I'm being honest about it. Yes,
Yeah.
I mean, he was full of energy. He wasn't a trained dog. I mean,
He wasn't trainable.
You told me, yes, you told me that you took him to the trainer, a dog trainer, to be trained, you know, to walk, to heel, and to come back to call, and they returned you to him, apparently, this, you can tell this story, after a couple of sessions, and said, he's not trainable.
No, what she actually said to me was, if I was you, I'd stop bringing him and paying for these lessons. Because if you have a dog that's, these are her words, by the way, not mine.
Yes.
If you're a dog that is as thick as shit, you can train it, but he's too intelligent for me, so I can't train him.
No.
He trains himself.
Yeah. He really was bright, wasn't he? Super
unbelievably
intelligent.
bright. Yeah.
He really was intelligent. So if you left a door open, and this doesn't necessarily speak to his intelligence, this speaks of his
mindset, really.
Yeah, his freedom. So if a door was open in the house, he would just run out. If we took him on a walk, or if he was on a walk and he was let off the lead, he wouldn't stay close by. Very rarely would he stay close by. He would run off, and sometimes we're talking 10, 15 minutes he could disappear for and then return. And I don't know how many of you have seen the video on YouTube. It's a couple of years old now. I think it's probably decades old. It's a famous YouTube video back when YouTube was in its ascendancy, really. The Fenton video. If you haven't seen it, maybe after this podcast you'll go and have a watch of it. It's very funny. There's a gentleman walking his dog. I don't know which park it is, but it's one of the UK's national parks. And his dog's off the lead, obviously, when you see the video. And it's chasing some deer. And it's like one of those Scooby-Doo sketches. You see the deer go across, and then a second later you see the dog going across, and then a second later you see the owner going across one way, so from left to right. And then you see the deer circle round. So I think somebody else walking is filming this. You see the deer circle round, and then the owner is then chasing the dog, chasing the deer, and you see, oh, it's Fenton! Fenton! Jesus Christ, Fenton! If you haven't seen it, this probably isn't that funny. If you have seen it, I imagine you're chuckling to yourself quite loudly. Go and watch it after this. It's very, very funny. The reason I'm saying that is because that's what Henry could be like. And yes, I've chased Henry after deer, after a fox, after badgers, after other dogs, after a rabbit, and he never ever, in terms of chasing them, he's not chasing them to hurt them. It's not aggressive. He's playing with them. He chased them, and they would run round and he'd run round. And a lot of the time we try and avoid this because we don't want to upset any animals or anything like that. So we're being as precautious as possible. Henry would go and find animals in fields that we didn't know existed. So it was an adventure, to say the least, and he was full of life. And you think that you'd lost him, and then 15 minutes later he'd just trot back up to you as if to say, I'm back, you can put my lead on now. Or when he got tired, didn't he? Yes. He would just come over and say, I'm ready for my lead now, and just look at you and just sort of then pacefully, gently walk at a gentle pace back to the car or back home. So he really was, in a sense, a mind of his own, a fiercely independent, beautifully natured, handsome boy. He really was. Yes. And he still is my best friend. I can't deny it.
So really, we can learn a lot from animals, can't we?
Unbelievably so.
And that's what I was saying with schools.
Yes.
You've worked in schools as your teacher. Do you think it would help if they had dogs in schools? Do you think it would calm the children down? I mean, in that way, could it calm them?
Yes, it could calm them.
So instead of sending them into a room where they sit on their own,
yes,
because these children are so worked up that they can't get the thoughts, the minds, or the bodies in function, really. And if a dog was in the room with them,
yes,
do you think they would sit down and talk to the dog and tell the dog its problems?
Ideally, yes. And I think it's a great idea. I think it would require, or I know it would require, particularly as the children get a little bit older and how education is structured in secondary education, there would have to be more changes than just bringing dogs into the building.
I understand that.
Because of the way the whole setup is
Yes.
logistically, the practicalities of it. But in terms of a conceptual idea, absolutely, yes. If things were done differently in different areas and animals were incorporated, particularly dogs, for children to be able to spend time with, you can tell a dog anything and it will keep your secret because
Yes.
it will never utter a word. A child is able to cry in front of a dog, laugh in front of a dog, cuddle a dog, be quiet with a dog. The dog will even sit by your side if you want to be annoyed or frustrated or whatever, F and Jeff, and get it off your chest. The dog will stay with you and bring you what you need and bring you round to yourself. They are truly wonderful creatures. They're wonderful creatures, and I absolutely know that children's lives are already enriched, but certainly could be greatly more enriched by having dogs in their lives.
Maybe even visiting people who are on their own, if you have a dog,
Yes.
and going to somebody's house who has a dog, who hasn't
Yeah.
got a dog, but would like to just sit with one.
Well, they have emotional support dogs, which I think...
I don't mean an emotional
I know.
support.
Well, in a way we do. In a way we do.
I'm
But
talking about your neighbours. I'm not just talking about an ordinary everyday thing like a neighbour.
yes, otherwise it becomes a bit contrived, doesn't
Yes,
it?
that's no good when you just... The world is too contrived anyway, isn't it?
Yeah. It's
In my eyes,
Absolutely.
anyway.
There's too much virtue signalling and labelling, isn't there?
Yeah.
In terms of being a little bit cynical, but it is like that. Yeah, allowing our animals to give comfort, strength, humour, joy, healing, anything, everything to each other.
Yes.
Even the cows in the field. And we mentioned trees, didn't we?
Yes,
to bring
we
it back
did.
to the wider context of the world around us. So we could draw on that from trees and give that to trees as well. It's not just the love that the dog gives you. It compels you to bring the love out of you into them, and then that spills out into the world around you. It softens your heart.
Oh, it definitely does.
I mean, you really are cold-hearted if a dog... I mean, a genuinely loving dog doesn't soften your heart.
Yes.
It really does soften your heart and brings out the best of you. It really does. And it often crossed my mind when I was upset or feeling down or feeling distraught at the way things are in life. Maybe something that's going on in my immediacy, in my immediate life, or quite often just what's going on across this world, our world, every single second of the day. And it was always true that if I looked at Henry, I do still think, if this world is home to Henry, a dog like him, then there is hope. Because a creature of such goodness and a creature of such love can find a home and can be happy on this earth, there is hope for us all. There's hope for humanity. And if dogs are prepared to still give humans the love that they do, they must know there is something inside of humanity worth loving. So that is feeding back to us that the human condition has something in it that is of true value, and dogs can see it. They can feel it, and they look to nurture and bring that out.
And we see it, don't we, with our friend Ted.
Super Ted.
Super Ted,
Yes.
who lost his dog a while
Yes,
back.
Jenny.
And who he absolutely adored.
I know. And who adored him as well.
And really said, I'm not going to get another one.
Yeah.
And he has. He's got Benny.
Benny.
And he loves Benny.
Yeah.
And Benny loves him.
Yes.
And a very, very handsome dog.
Yeah, very handsome dog. Benny's been on a few of our walks and stands, hasn't he?
He has, and he was on
Yeah.
the last stand in Liverpool. wasn't
Yeah.
he? With
He's a very lovely, handsome lurcher. He's a great dog.
So, and to be part of what we're doing. So, Henry was a big part, wasn't he, of our events, our meetings.
Yes.
Even when we went to meetings at the Seraphina Centre, he used to come with us.
Yes.
And he would just sit as if he knew what was going on.
Not as if he knew, he did know. In
He
his
did know,
way.
yes.
I absolutely
In his
know
way,
it.
yeah.
Yes. I don't know. He's missed.
Yeah.
He's missed. Although he's still, I mean, we're speaking about him today, his love and the love for Henry. And I know some of you listening will have had the opportunity to love and meet Henry. So
Privilege.
And yes, the
Not
privilege.
the opportunity.
Yes,
privilege,
the privilege, of course. So it's a relationship that doesn't end,
No.
but it continues in a different way, which is true, I know, for many of you with your friends and family and animals in your lives. Life and saying goodbye is a part of the dance of life. It gives it often its greatest poignancy. It gives it often its greatest sadness, but without that, it wouldn't have its deepest meaning.
No.
So there is such beauty in it, and there's such beauty in the depth of feeling. And that relationship has been cultivated over thousands of years. Out of all of the animals on the earth, the dog and humans have forged a relationship together. I know humans particularly have close relationships with horses as well. And there are other animals as well. There is no hierarchy of greater or lesser animals. But there is the truth that in our conversation, we're focusing in on it, that dogs and humans have forged a very close bond through work, through play, but underpinned with love. It's a sincere, warm, genuine love that is held from an animal and a human, or two different creatures who love each other. And that gives such hope for the world, such hope for tomorrow, that we can find a love, such a deep love for a creature, such a magical creature, then even our worst human beings in another light, somewhere, maybe through a dog, we can find chinks, shimmers of hope and love for each other. I know that's very idealistically put, and maybe a little bit naive based on a lot of things that happen, but there is hope, and that's wonderful. It really is wonderful.
The street dogs, when you go abroad,
Yes,
you know, people talk about the street dogs, and lots of people are frightened, aren't they? They're frightened because they're not quite sure how the dogs will react. When I was a child, all dogs were on the street.
yes.
You opened the door in the morning. You didn't take dogs for walks. You opened the door in the morning, the dog went out,
Yes.
whatever it wanted to do, and you used to have a rope. You used to put a rope round the dog.
Yes.
It's like if you were taking it with you. Most of the time, they just followed all the kids in what they were doing.
I know.
And
It's
that's
so
freedom.
lovely, isn't it?
You
It's
have
so
so
lovely.
much freedom, and
An adventure.
I think it's time it takes us away, doesn't it? It takes us away from ourselves sometimes. Yes. Sometimes we have to come out of our own comfort zones.
Yes.
And look at another species, as you said, be it the tree or the dog.
Yes. And feel it in your heart.
Yes.
There's the opportunity to feel.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, we're coming towards the end of today's episode, Anne, so I don't think, certainly with the way I talk, that we'll have the opportunity to expand on it. But fear is encroached in all of our lives too much, really, because how many children play out for even a dog to play with them? Gangs of children playing in the fields, playing out in the streets, knocking on for each other, playing knock-a-door run, playing out. I know we're moving into autumn, winter, so it's a different time of the year, but in general, it's something that we can maybe explore in the episodes to come.
Well, you'd be out looking for firewood now, wouldn't you, for your bonfire?
Yes, yeah, and preparing, penny for the guy, and I mean, in recent years, Halloween's come in, yes. So,
but you used to make your guy and go and stand outside shops.
Yeah. So it's a part of the adventure, and a little bit maybe of misadventure in terms of finding boundaries and understanding a little bit about life itself, that maybe too many children are too cosseted. Maybe. I'm speculating, to be honest with you. So, yes. Well, anything else that we had an opening for to talk about? Dogs have completely come in and settled down and spent the whole of our Sunday morning with us. Henry's decided to make it all about him, and we've agreed with him completely, Henry. Yeah. We've had the privilege for you to be with us again and to talk about you. So I hope you've stayed with us and you've enjoyed half an hour mostly of myself. Apologies, Anne. I've got very passionate about Henry.
Fine.
And so sending out genuine love and affection and a deep appreciation and gratitude to all of the animals that are listening, and to all of the dogs, and to all of you as well who are also listening. Thank you. So I think we best leave it there, Anne, for this Sunday morning.
In this world of all humans, let's all just be kind to each other.
Yes, let's be more kind. So thank you for tuning in. We look forward to speaking with you, to being with you again next Sunday morning. Have a lovely week, and we'll see you then. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.